My name is Dr. Talia Marcajani, and I'm a naturopathic doctor and mental health expert in Toronto. Today we're going to talk about the gut-brain connection and how that can influence your mental health symptoms. I think we intuitively know that the gut and brain are connected. When you feel mental symptoms of anxiety, we immediately notice the effects on our gut. During times of stress, we know that we have indigestion, we're more predisposed to things like diarrhea and irritable bowel syndrome. Even anatomically, there's a nerve called the vagus nerve that directly connects the brain to our digestive system. This nerve is responsible for putting us into that rest and digest state. When this nerve is stimulated, our body starts to secrete digestive enzymes, saliva starts to be secreted, and we're able to break down our food and absorb the nutrients from the food that we're eating. A lot of research has been going on that you might be aware of about healthy gut bacteria. And more people, especially medical doctors, happily are prescribing probiotics anytime someone is prescribed antibiotics for a bacterial infection. Scientists have started to study more about these gut bacteria. We know we have like 5 pounds of gut bacteria sitting in our digestive systems. Over 100 trillion cells. This is more than 10 times the amount of cells we actually have in our physical bodies, and more DNA than we have in our body. We are more bacteria than we are human. And these gut bacteria, we can't survive without them. They influence the very physiology that we experience, and they definitely impact our health. These bacteria are responsible for helping us digest our food and for our mental and emotional wellness, as well as keeping our immune system in check. So a disbalance in bacteria, or an increase in that negative bad bacteria and not good strains of healthy bacteria, can lead to diseases like autoimmune disease or multiple sclerosis, or things like chronic fatigue syndrome, as we're seeing in research. Scientists are starting to study more about how the bacterial balance in our gut can influence our mood and mental health. These gut bacteria can actually produce serotonin, so that's the happy hormone in the brain. And you may have heard of serotonin, especially if you suffer from depression or anxiety, because your doctor may have recommended a kind of medication called SSRIs, or selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or a similar drug, SNRIs, like venlafaxine, which are selective serotonin and norepinephrine reuptake inhibitors. And this is based on the monoamine hypothesis, that there's this chemical imbalance in the brain where your body is either not making enough or absorbing enough or reacting to serotonin enough. When we're given these antidepressants, the idea is that we're recorrecting this brain imbalance, and that's as much of the story as we've gotten. We don't know why this brain imbalance is around. So I think that if we're going to stick with this hypothesis, which is still controversial in science, we should look to the gut bacteria, because we know that gut bacteria produces a significant amount of serotonin. And if we're blaming depression and anxiety on serotonin deficiencies, why not look at the gut and find out how we can influence the balance of healthy gut bacteria so that we're producing enough serotonin, especially if we're relying on drugs to correct the imbalance and we don't have enough serotonin for the drugs to work properly. Gut cells on their own produce 95% of the serotonin in the body. So basically every single chemical that we have in our brain is produced or exists in the gut. So we need to be able to feed the gut cells so that they're producing the healthy amounts of hormones we need to experience a healthy mood and to live our lives in ways that are stress-free and energized and happy, so that we can be effective in our lives. Mentally and emotionally, you might know this like gut feeling that we talk about in language, and that's kind of permeated throughout cultures. So we know that when we get this feeling in the gut, it's almost like an intuition. Some people will say, I just knew it because I felt it in the gut. And I think that we've always had this intuition, or we've always had this connection between what our mental state, our thoughts, beliefs, and emotions are telling us and what our gut is telling us. We think that we think with our brain, and that all of the mental symptoms that we experience are happening at the level of the brain, but because of this tight gut-brain connection, we know that's not true. People that have done brain studies actually find that we have thoughts before we have brain activity a lot of the time. So I wonder if we're actually thinking with our gut, which is a revolutionary, radical thought, but we're finding more and more evidence for this in science. You may have heard of a condition called leaky gut. or the more official scientific term is intestinal permeability. Our gut is really selective about what it absorbs for good reason. What happens though when we're experiencing chronic stress, or we've used a lot of antibiotics, or maybe eaten things like high sugar foods, lots of caffeine, or a lot of alcohol, we can cause gut inflammation, which starts to allow bacteria, food toxins, or whole proteins from food into the blood, into the body, by breaking down the integrity of the gut. So when it comes to health, for most health conditions, especially when there's a few symptoms that seem disconnected and it's hard to find the relationship between them, naturopathic medicine and now functional medicine and hopefully soon conventional medicine begins to look at gut health. So if I'm sitting across from a patient who has a long list of health symptoms that seem like they're not connected and has digestive symptoms, and 40 to 60% of the population in general has some kind of digestive symptom, whether it be bloating after eating, feeling fatigued after eating, just feeling like your food is sitting in your stomach and not really moving through, GERD, so acid reflux, heartburn, diarrhea and constipation, or those IBS symptoms, gas and bloating. When I sit across from a patient with any of those symptoms, the first place we go in terms of treatment is to look at the gut. So how do you keep your gut healthy? There's a few things. The first is to eliminate anything that's causing gut inflammation. So this could be excessive caffeine and alcohol, excessive refined sugars, antibiotics without doing a probiotic immediately after or during an antibiotic treatment, chronic mental and emotional stress or physical stress, and food sensitivities, something that we're eating that's causing our immune system to react and our gut to become inflamed. Ensuring a proper bacterial balance by either supplementing with a probiotic or eating a variety of fermented foods such as kefir, yogurt, or kombucha, or sauerkraut, and making sure that we're eating a variety of whole foods, whole grains, fruits and vegetables, and healthy fibers that are going to feed that healthy gut bacteria. So when it comes to mental health, such as depression and anxiety, chronic mental stress, even things like bipolar or OCD, conventional medicine tends to just look at the brain and blame the brain on the host of symptoms that patients might experience. Naturopathic medicine looks at the entire body, and since we know the gut and brain are connected, and our patients are simultaneously experiencing mental health symptoms and digestive symptoms, we definitely have to treat the gut. For more information, you can visit my website at taliand.com or send me an email at connect@taliand.com. I work at Bloor West Wellness Clinic in Bloor West Village in Toronto.